أزواج مطهرة وهم فيها خالدون إن الله لا يستحيي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها فأما الذين آمنوا فيعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وأما الذين كفروا فيقولون ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا وما يضل به إلا الفاسقين الذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويفسدون في الأرض أولئك هم الخاسرون كيف تكفرون بالله وكنتم أمواتا فأحياكم ثم يميتكم ثم يحييكم ثم إليه ترجعون هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا ثم استوى إلى السماء فسواهن 7 سماوات وهو بكل شيء عليم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم قال يا آدم أنبئهم بأسمائهم فلما أنبأهم بأسمائهم قال ألم أقل لكم إني أعلم غيب السماوات والأرض وأعلم ما تبدون وما كنتم تكتمون
All right, assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you guys can hear me. Thank you for joining us tonight, especially during these trying times. Inshallah, tonight we have Brother Ehsan Kashfipur, who's going to be speaking on the topic of financial literacy. Afterwards, we'll have a Kahoot game with a cash prize, so please stick around to the end. As always, we have our chat option available so that if anyone at any time would like us to ask any questions throughout the presentation, our chat moderator will compile all the questions and we'll ask that at the end of Brother Hassan's speech. Now, before I introduce our speaker tonight, Brother Reza, I believe you had a brief message for everyone. Sorry, one moment, please. Brother Reza, can you hear us?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. I just wanted to take a brief moment of your time. As some of you may know, we lost a member of our extended community yesterday. For those of you who are familiar with Camp Taha, the summer camp in Michigan, one of the brothers from we've known for many years, Brother Osama Sharafuddin, passed away yesterday. So if we could all please take a few seconds to please recite a Surah Fatiha for himself, for his family, so that Allah can give patience to his family and provide the serenity for him, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, maliki yawm ad-din, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een, ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim, غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Thank you very much, Brother Ihsan. Floor is all yours.
All right, Brother Hassan, can you hear us?
All right, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and you can see the slides as well, inshallah.
Sorry,
All right.
moment.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First, let me just start off by thanking the organizers of these events and these evenings, Milad, Reza, and the rest of the organizers for putting on these series of events for us and inviting me to speak about this very important topic with all of you. I want to first acknowledge that financial literacy is a topic that all of you in the audience tonight are coming at with different levels of expertise. And indeed, many of you are more versed on this topic than I am. So what my hope for this presentation then is that each of you is able to walk away having learned at least one new concept or idea that you hadn't thought about before, so that this time that we have together is beneficial for everyone, inshallah. I also want to say that throughout this presentation, I've included multiple opportunities for you to apply what we're learning throughout the discussion. So please be sure to engage via the chat function, and if you have questions, to ask via the chat as well. All right, so our agenda for this evening, we're going to be going over 5 topics. First, we'll do an introduction of what money is all about. We'll go over the basics of budgeting. We'll talk about investments. I will also introduce some tips and tricks about how to be smart with your money. And lastly, we'll talk about security. But first, what is money? Ever since civilization has progressed from the barter system, where when I, say, a corn farmer would trade my corn with you for your oranges, an orange farmer, we've been using money as a means of facilitating our transactions. Money has taken many shapes and sizes, from seashells to metals like gold or even paper. But today's money, such as the US dollar or the Iranian rial, has no intrinsic value like those former types of money. Instead, the value of the currency we use today comes from two places. The first is the government, which tells us that the currency has a specific value. And second, it's the expectation that we have that other people will value it. But it's important to understand that the value of the currency actually decreases over time. This doesn't mean that a dollar is no longer going to be worth a dollar, that it's now worth 50 cents or something like that. But rather, what inflation means is that a dollar can no longer buy you what a dollar was able to buy you before. And so to illustrate this concept, let's look at the example of the cost of a cup of coffee. In the year 1970, the cost of a cup of coffee was just 25 cents. Over the past 5 decades, the cost has gone up to $1.59. This means that it now costs more than 6 times as much money to buy the same product that you were able to buy before. Why does this matter? Well, the fact that money loses its value over time has a number of important implications for us as individuals. I want to highlight just a couple of these today. The first is that when we are evaluating financial or investment decisions, we should value money sooner more than we value money later. So for example, if I offer to give you $100 today or $100 in a year from now, everybody should prefer the $100 today since it has greater value. Second, how we hold our money also matters. Our money should always be stored in a way that it is increasing in amount, because if it is not increasing in amount, it is actually decreasing in its value. So this brings us to our first pop quiz. Inflation suggests that holding your money as cash is a good idea because its value goes up over time. B, good idea because it stimulates the economy. C, bad idea because its value goes down over time. Or D, bad idea because it dampens the economy. I'll wait just a second so you can think about this and think what the correct response is. And if you're so inclined, please do share in the chat function as well. So the correct answer here is C. It's a bad idea. We talked about inflation and the value of money going down over time, and that's why we need to make sure it's increasing in value. So what are some better alternative ways to hold our money than cash? At a minimum, we should store our money in a savings account where the money at least has some return year over year. But for longer term investments, we'll need to look at bonds and stocks, which we'll talk more about shortly. Moving on to budgeting. Budgeting means planning your finances and is absolutely essential to your financial health. The basic things everyone should keep close track of on a monthly basis include all of the revenues that you have or the money you have coming in, as well as your expenses or the money going out. You should be sure to include all of your sources of revenue and all the expenses that you anticipate in every single month. I've included some examples on the slide here, such as the wages or salary that you earn on your job, any investment income that you have coming in, if you receive government benefits, or say, for example, you're younger and your parents give you an allowance. These would all be examples of revenues. As for expenses, you'll want to include regular monthly expenses like rent, utilities, or a car payment, but also a slush fund, which is a source of money that you can use to pay for irregular expenses. Things that might fall into this category include entertainment, going out to the movies or a restaurant, or if you need to buy a new pair of shoes or other small purchases. Now let's put some dollars and amounts on these projections. Let's say person X has $1,000 a month in salary and they get $500 in investment income. For example, they don't have any government benefits at this time, but they do expect a $20 gift in June 2020. This would bring their total revenues to $1,520. Meanwhile, their expenses sum up to $1,350. As you can see, our total revenues in this case exceed our total expenses for the month by $170. So what does this mean? Does this mean that we should go ahead and find some way to spend that $170 in this month? Absolutely not. Instead, this difference between our revenues and expenses in a given month is where saving or borrowing comes in. In this situation, because we are $170 more in revenue than expenses, we will want to save that money. But hypothetically, what if instead you were currently unemployed? For example, let's say you're a full-time student or you're retired and you don't make that $1,000 a month in wages. Well, in this situation, your expenses actually exceed your revenues by $830. So in this case, should we find some way that we can reduce our expenses down to the $520 we have coming in? Maybe some, but definitely not all the way to $520. The amount of money that we have coming in 520 isn't enough to meet our lifestyle that we expect to live at that time. Instead, this example illustrates a situation where you should be borrowing to finance your expenses. Borrowing and saving play a very important role in our financial planning. Those who overspend now and put off saving for retirement often have to work longer or reduce their standard of living in retirement. Those who oversave now to enjoy a better lifestyle when they're retired will be living an unnecessarily frugal lifestyle at this point. In each case, your overall standard of living is less than optimal. Instead, our financial planning goal should be to smoothen our quality of life over our lifetimes. We accomplish this by spreading out our spending levels. This graph here illustrates the typical person's life. The curve you see shows our income level, which, as you can see, it's increasing over our lifetimes until it reaches its peak. Then it starts dropping down again. We want to take that entire lifetime earnings that we will have and spread it out over our lifetime so that we're spending in a manner that we can optimize our lifestyle across our lifetimes. So now you might be thinking, why is it our goal to smooth our consumption over our lifetimes? Let me illustrate by one example. Let's look at Ali's earnings over his lifetime. When he's 25, Ali makes $30,000 per year. When he's 55, Ali makes $150 per year. If I offer to give Ali $10,000 at any point in his life, would he prefer to have that money when he's 25 or when he's 55? Of course, Ali would prefer it when he's 25, since that $10,000 would go a longer way for him then than when he's 55 and already has a beautiful home, a car, and eats kebab kuida for dinner every night. Okay, so now we understand what a budget is and what our goals for budgeting are. How do we actually budget in practice? You can make a very simple yet very effective budget in Microsoft Excel. Feel free to search Google or other websites to find free templates that you can then use to customize to fit your needs. But I would actually recommend a free online service called Mint, which is run by Intuit, the same company that runs TurboTax. With Mint, you can link your bank accounts, credit cards, and other financial accounts you may have, and Mint automatically tracks your income and spending, and even categorizes your expenses so you can better understand how you are spending your money. This brings us to pop quiz number 2. How can we smooth our consumption over our lifetimes? A, borrowing when we are young. B, saving for when we are older. C, setting monthly budgets to plan our spending in advance. Or D, all of the above. That's right. The answer is D, all of the above. As we discussed, you can smooth consumption by saving during your high earning years. When you are younger, you should borrow against those future savings by taking out student loans, mortgages, etc. And once you're retired, you should spend from the savings you had previously amassed. Of course, properly borrowing and saving is not possible without budgeting, as we saw earlier, so that's necessary as well. All right, we're going to move on to our next topic, investments. We've talked extensively about the need to save money, primarily for 2 reasons. The first is that we need to save money so we can use it when we have less income. And second, we need to save money, and a bank savings account helps us make up for some of the value lost due to inflation. What if we were able to not only save our money for later, but actually put our savings to work to make more money? Well, this is the role of investments. There are two key ideas that are essential to understanding any investment decision. The first is annual return. How much money do you expect to make on this investment per year? Now, of course, it's important to understand that not every investment will make the same amount of money each year. In fact, some investments may even require you to lose money at first in order to make more later. The second factor is risk. How certain are you to make that annual return with this investment? Different investments have different amounts of risk. It's also important to recognize that risk does not mean, well, am I going to make $100 this year or $200? In some instances, investments may even run the risk of losing money over time. We will talk about these shortly, but for now, I just want to make the point that annual return and risk go hand in hand. Generally speaking, the greater the annual return that is expected off an investment, the greater its risk. In particular, what I mean is that there's a trade-off between risk and reward. The investments with the greater expected return are also the ones that carry higher risk. Okay, great. So now that we have our framework, we can start thinking about different investment instruments. We have already discussed cash saving. And we know a bank savings account provides very low return, typically even less than inflation, but it carries very low risk. We will introduce two more instruments tonight: government bonds and stocks. So first, government bonds. Investing in a bond is essentially you lending money to the government. The government needs a lot of people's outside money to pay off the loads of expenses that it has every month. And so it borrows money from people. Government bonds offer investors like you and I a fixed low return, which is typically around 2 to 3% per year. This investment is very low risk. And the reason why is because it's backed by the government. Unless the government were to default on its debts, essentially the government going bankrupt, you're sure to get your money back. The second investment instrument is stocks. Investing in a stock is you purchasing a fraction of a company's shares. Essentially, owning a stock entitles you to a portion of a company's profits. If the company does well, the value of your stock goes up. If the company does poorly, the value of your stock goes down. It's important to know that some stocks are safer, such as Amazon, Google, Walmart, the bigger players we're all familiar with. But some are actually riskier, such as startup companies that haven't really proven themselves yet, or pharmaceutical companies where they're investing in a new drug that's not sure to succeed in curing a disease or not. A key aspect of investing is diversifying your portfolio of investments. By allocating your money to various instruments, such as a variety of low-risk stocks, high-risk stocks, and in different industries, you can keep your expected return high while lowering the risk of the portfolio. The reason that this happens is because it's much less likely that all of your investments are going to crash at the same time. Some examples of portfolio diversification include exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, which you can buy on stock exchanges. Mutual funds and hedge funds, which include combinations of stocks, bonds, and other short-term investments. And we'll talk more about those in a second. But first, I want to share this chart to demonstrate how the balance of investments in your portfolio affects annual return and risk. As you go from left to right on this chart, from conservative to aggressive growth, the share of stocks in your portfolio increases while the share of bonds and other short-term investments decreases. As you can see from the rows below, the more stocks that you own in your portfolio, the greater the possible upside or best annual return you can expect. But also the lower the possible downside or the worst annual return. As you can see, there's a potential in 1 year of losing 60% of your investment in the aggressive growth model. Over a 20-year period, however, the best case scenario under the aggressive investments is about 16.5% per year, while its worst case scenario, 2.66%, is just barely lower than the worst case scenario under a conservative portfolio. This is the magic of diversification in work. Now, how does all of this tie into the retirement accounts we have all heard so much about? Well, a 401k and IRA are simply diversified portfolios of investments. Your 401k or IRA account is allocating your investment into a variety of funds, including mutual funds and sector funds. This is why when the stock market collapses, such as in 2008 or through 2010, or right now with the coronavirus pandemic, many people's retirement funds are getting entirely wiped out. The reason why is even though they have diversified portfolios, there has been an impact to the entire stock market across industry, across sector. So even the high risk and low risk stocks are being affected equally. Now with retirement accounts, these funds that are being invested in are usually optimized to a specific end year. Say when you want to retire at age 65 or so. As you get closer to retirement age, the investments that you hold in your portfolio are gradually becoming more conservative. And so when you're younger, you're holding on to more stocks, but as you age, your portfolio becomes more bonds and other short-term instruments. Now let's take a little bit of a closer look at 401ks and IRAs. What's so special about these accounts? Well, it's not so much the way that they're investing the money, it's really just how the government allows you to treat these accounts. These accounts allow you to defer taxes from when you make the contributions into your investment accounts to when you withdraw from the account, say once you've retired. Usually this is preferable for most people, since when you retire, you will presumably be in a lower tax bracket. And so you'll pay less in taxes then rather than now when you're a high earner. I also want to note that 401ks are open through your employer. And depending on your job, your employer may offer to match contributions you make into your 401k up to a certain limit. So this is essentially giving you an opportunity to get more pay from your employer by investing in your 401k while you're working. I also want to say that these retirement accounts usually do have early withdrawal penalties. So they are designed to be used solely for retirement saving. But if you really needed to, you could withdraw the funds early at a cost. Now, many people have also heard about Roth 401ks or Roth IRAs. These are essentially identical accounts to what we've just talked about, except you pay taxes when you make your contributions rather than on the end. And so once you withdraw funds when you're retired, your investments are not going to be taxed. All right, that brings us to pop quiz number 3. Which of the following is the best investment option? A savings account paying 0.5% return per year. B, a government bond paying 2% return per year. C, a stock where you can expect a 6.6% return per year. Or D, your student loan accruing 5.5% interest per year. Go wait just a second, see what everybody thinks. All right, wow, look at that, a lot of C's. The answer is actually D. You should take the money you want to invest and pay down your student loan. And I know this is somewhat of a trick question because we didn't really talk about student loans or other loans that we have as an investment, but I want to introduce this idea because it's important. What we haven't shown on this slide is the amount of risk that each of these investments carries. So in choice A savings account, the risk is very low. With a government bond, the risk is also low. But with a stock, the risk is high. And so when you have a student loan that you can pay down, that you're paying 5.5% interest on, that's essentially a no-risk investment that you can make, that your return is going to be 5.5% guaranteed since you're no longer paying that interest. And as we discussed regarding stocks, while the expected return on the stock is a little bit higher, there's also a lot of risk associated with stock investments. For almost most people in the world, a guaranteed 5.5 return is going to be superior to the stock investment. All right, moving on to everyday tips and tricks. The first thing I want to cover is credit score, the FICO credit score. A credit score is a 3-digit number that represents your credit worthiness. Essentially, it's a measure of how risky of an investment you are. The higher your credit score, the less risky you are. And as we just discussed in the previous section, the less risky an investment is, such as yourself, the less return or interest is going to be demanded of you. So it is absolutely essential to your financial well-being that you do everything you can to maintain the highest credit score possible. This will go a long way for you when you are taking out loans for school, to buy a home or a car, or even when you're applying to certain jobs. Some easy ways you can keep your score up include applying for credit only when it's needed. The more credit you already have extended to you, the more risky it's going to be to give you additional credit. Even when you are getting a loan that you need, you should avoid shopping around so that fewer potential lenders do a formal check on your credit. Additionally, you should keep all of your balances low. You don't want to use all of the credit that has been extended to you, since then it becomes risky to give you more. And finally, pay all of your bills on time. This includes the bills that you have for utility or cell phones, but also any other balances you have due. In some cases, not paying your parking tickets or Easy Pass tickets or other things can potentially affect your credit score. Next, I want to dedicate a slide to credit cards. Everybody who can should be using a credit card for their everyday transactions. By using a credit card, you are able to protect yourself against unauthorized transactions, build your credit, pay for your purchases 30 days later, and gain rewards such as cash back. Now, of course, it goes without saying, you should be sure to pay your credit cards off on time. Now, some people might be wondering, what kind of credit card might you recommend? Some credit cards have annual fees, but there are also plenty of options that have no annual fees. So you're not paying anything and you can take advantage of all these benefits. I'm not paid by Capital One to say this, but here's one example of one that I do recommend. The Capital One Saver One Rewards Card. It has a $0 annual fee, but it also gives you a $150 cash bonus when you sign up. On each of your everyday purchases, you make between 1% to 3% cash back, and there's no foreign transaction fee. So if you're traveling to Europe or South America, you can use your credit card there as well and take advantage of the best exchange rates possible. Now, before we move on from credit cards, I want to make one last key point. Credit cards are not a good way of spending money that you don't have at this time. They should only be used for the money that you have budgeted and that you would be spending from a debit card or using cash. Credit cards carry astronomically high interest rates, upwards of 15%, that will be charged if you don't pay off your balance in full every month. So again, they are not a vehicle for spending money that you don't have at this time. Next, annual credit reports. The annual credit report shows the credit accounts that you have that are adversely or even positively affecting your credit score. While they don't show your credit score, they're very important for you to review on a regular basis so you can see what is hurting your credit score or helping it. You can check each of your 3 credit reports, the ones from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, for free once per year by going to www.annualcreditreport.com. And you can access all of them, and you should access all of them once per year to see what factors are affecting your credit and to make sure all of the information is correct. If you find any discrepancies, you can dispute them with the credit agencies, and that can help bring your credit score back up. All right, that brings us to pop quiz number 4. Spending via credit card is better than by debit card or cash because it A, offers greater protection in the event of loss or theft. B, it builds your credit score. C, it offers rewards such as cash back. D, you are financially responsible and will pay your bill on time. Or E, all of the above. All right, we got 1D and a lot of E's in there. That's right, the answer is E. As we discussed earlier, using a credit card for everyday purchases is preferable for all of the reasons listed, assuming that you are going to be responsible and pay the full balance. Otherwise, you're going to see a lot of interest accruing, and that's not going to be good for anyone. All right, our last section for tonight, safety and security. I want to spend the last few minutes discussing financial safety and security because this is a very important issue that affects millions of people every year. The first topic is going to be scams. Scams are a way that ill-intentioned people try to steal money from you and I, usually online. These scams can take many forms, but what you should always keep an eye out for is any email asking you to share personal or financial information. In general, if you receive a suspicious email, you should not open the email, you should not reply to the email, and you should definitely not click on any of the links in the email. There may be instances where you're not sure. For example, you get an email from your bank and it says to reset your password, even though you never asked your bank to reset your password. In these situations, you should always contact the sender yourself online or by phone to verify that the email is really from them before you give away your password to somebody who's later going to hack your accounts. Next, identity theft. If you want to see something really scary, search your name in Google and see how much personal information comes up. There are numerous data aggregators that compile your information and put it on public display. This is particularly concerning for people like you and I who have less common names. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, but I do want to introduce you to Delete Me. Delete Me is a paid service that removes your information from these data aggregators. However, they also have a free guide on how you can have your information removed by doing it yourself. And so there's the link there that you can follow, but you can also just search Delete Me, Do It Yourself guide. The one piece of information that I want to say is not publicly available for people to access online is your social security number. So you should do everything you can to guard your SSN as much as possible. Still, even if you take all of these precautions, data breaches happen. Even Equifax, one of the credit reporting agencies we had just discussed earlier, was hacked and lost the personal information of 147 million people in 2017. Chances are your information is out there. So it is important that you consistently check your credit card and bank statements carefully and often. Review your credit reports at least once a year like we talked about. Correct any discrepancies or inaccurate information, and change your online account passwords frequently. For those of you who are curious, you can visit haveibeenpwned.com and enter your email address to see if your personal information has been hacked and spread online publicly. All right, and that brings us to our final pop quiz. An unknown person includes your actual password, an actual phone number, and an email to you, demanding you send $1,000, or else they will publicly share your private photos. What should you do? A, send the $1,000. They clearly have hacked my devices. B, reply saying, no, thank you. C, click the link to see where the $1,000 would go. Or D, ignore and delete. That's right. Everybody's paying attention tonight. Ignore and delete. You should never open, reply to, or click on any suspicious emails. This includes if someone is trying to blackmail you. Much of our personal information, even passwords and phone numbers, even your addresses, are available online for bad actors to use thanks to data breaches. Don't fall for these scams, and be sure to protect your identity as well. And with that, I want to thank all of you for bearing with me through this presentation. I hope everybody was able to learn something from this, and I'll now be happy to answer any questions that have come up.
All right, so thank you for this and for providing us with such great insight into the topic of financial literacy. While we're getting the Kahoot game ready, we have a couple of questions. So the first question is, where do you recommend to purchase stocks?
Is the question where?
Yeah, where? Mm-hmm.
So there's a number of platforms that can be used if you look online. The biggest one is probably E-Trade, but for beginners, there's one platform called Robinhood that's pretty good. They don't charge any fees, so it's essentially free for you to buy and sell stocks using Robinhood. Now, there's going to be all sorts of limits there. You're not going to become the next Warren Buffett using that platform. You can't immediately invest $100,000 into a stock that you think is going up tomorrow, but it's somewhere that's useful for beginners to use to just kind of dabble in stocks. But I do want to bring back, again, the point that we made earlier about diversification. Stocks are not a low-risk investment. And so unless you have some kind of insider information about a stock that you think is going to perform well, people like you and I are not trained, and it's not our full-time jobs to be doing these investments. And if you do have internal piece of information that other people don't have, that's considered insider trading and is actually a criminal activity. So I just want to put those caveats out there, and just to say that investing in stocks is not the safest investment. You're most likely not going to outperform people whose jobs it is to do these types of stock investments. And be sure to diversify your portfolio before you put all of your investments in one stock.
The next question we have is, what are the top 5 stocks you would recommend someone invest in?
Unfortunately, I'm not an investment professional nor a banker, and so I cannot give any information about top 5 stocks that I would invest in. What I will say is that the most useful thing to do is to do your research and think about what your goals are with your investments. The most important thing is, in what time horizon do you need the money back, or in what time horizon are you hoping to pull your money out and hopefully have seen it increase, right? So that's where, for example, investing in portfolios that are designed for 30 years from now, 20 years from now, when we're set to retire, are going to be built in one certain way. Whereas people who are looking for an immediate gain, you're going to be putting your money in, high risk, but potentially high return stocks. So you're looking at startups, you're looking at pharmaceutical companies, things like this, where the chances of you actually losing all of your money in the stock are pretty high. But if you don't, and the company does well, they're going to go up a lot. So I'm not going to suggest any particular stocks. But what I will say is, right now, because of the coronavirus pandemic, the stock market has collapsed quite a bit across industry, across sectors. So it's helpful to take a look at that and see how some of the stocks that have performed very well before coronavirus have been affected. Usually their prices have gone down tremendously, and right now is not a bad time to buy those stocks if you're interested. But I'm not going to make any kind of particular advice on how people should invest their money in stocks.
And a follow-up question to that is, do you have any apps that you would recommend for beginners?
Yeah, so the website I mentioned, Robinhood, has an app as well. So I would definitely I would recommend you take a look at Robinhood. It's free. There are other ones that are better platforms. So like I said, E-Trade is one of the biggest ones, but those are going to have costs that come with every time you do a trade. And so a trade is essentially when you choose to buy a stock or sell a stock, you're going to be paying some kind of fee to E-Trade. Robinhood doesn't have those, so for that reason, it's pretty helpful for beginners. But be sure not to just rely on one app or one platform either. You should take a look online. There's a lot of information out there about which stocks are predicted to do well, which ones Warren Buffett and his Berkshire Hathaway firm are investing in or not investing in. So be sure to do your research outside of any particular app or website as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you recommend investing in a Roth 401k or normal 401k, and what are the chances that tax will go up in the future?
Good question. That's a really good question. So the tax implications, again, I know I'm caveating with everything with saying that none of this is meant to be any advice for any particular person, so don't construe it in that way. But generally speaking, for most people, investing in a regular 401k it makes more sense generally because of the tax situation, right? So if, for example, you're making $150,000 this year, you're paying a higher tax rate on your income. And so if you're paying the tax right now, you're going to be paying, for example, 30%. But when you're retired and you're taking out $1,500 a month from your savings to use for retirement, you're going to be paying very low, next to nothing in taxes at that time. So it really depends on people's financial situations and tax situations, which one's going to make more sense. What I will say about the Roth 401ks is that one of the big benefits is you don't pay tax on the value increase in your investment, right? So if you're investing your money for the next 50 years, well, that value is probably going to go up quite a bit between now and when you're set to retire and pull out the money. So if you're able to pay tax now, even though it's at a higher rate, you're going to be paying taxes on less dollars, right? Because you're not paying tax on the actual money that's grown since then. Whereas with a standard 401k, you will be paying money on the gain and the value of your investment at that time.
Mm-hmm. And our final question for tonight is, would you recommend investing in stocks with dividends or just day-to-day trading?
Yeah, so again, it kind of depends on your goals with your investments. I will say that for the vast majority of people, dividends are not the reason that they're investing their money. And in fact, you know, a lot of high growth companies are not paying dividends. Generally, you see dividends with more established companies, right? So for example, let's look at utilities or, I don't know, internet service providers, things like that, that have really not changed over the past several decades, right? Like they're doing the same thing. They're just as profitable as they've been before. Those are the ones that generally pay dividends out of their profits. Whereas more high growth companies, so if you take a look at big tech, so Google, Facebook, Apple, these kinds of companies are not really paying out dividends. Rather than giving that money back out to their shareholders, they're reinvesting that money for additional growth. And so you're getting greater benefit from the higher value of that stock than you are with the dividend. But you know, for some people, their priority in their investment is that they want a stable, you know, amount of money to come out from their investment every month. And so in that case, you know, a dividend makes more sense. Or we talked about bonds, for example, that have a fixed return rate. So you know that for every year, you're going to be getting X% back out of that money. So it really depends on what your preferences are and what your goals are out of your investments.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all the questions we have. Thank you so much for fielding the questions. I especially agree financial literacy is really important. Helps us manage our financial affairs and improves our lives. So I'm really grateful that we had you here tonight to help navigate some of the concerns we might be having.
It's my pleasure. Thank you again for inviting me and for everything you guys are doing to put on these insightful events. And I'll go ahead and turn off my mic now.
Of course. Now, before we begin the Kahoot game tonight, I want to make a quick announcement regarding tomorrow's session. Please mark your calendars. Tomorrow's session will be our celebration for Milad Imam Hassan. It will feature Sheikh Navid from Qom, speech in English, discussing wisdom from the Quran, Dr. Dolati discussing Imam Hassan, Quran and Madahi by Haj Mohsin Tahi from Tehran. So please be sure to tune into tomorrow's session. Now, while I have you guys here, we will begin the Kahoot game. So just give us one moment, please. So if you guys want to go over to kahoot.io, and we can start the Kahoot game. So if you guys want to go to kahoot.io, and then the game pin is 974419.
All right, so while Brother Milad gets the Kahoot game up and running, please give us a moment. And as a reminder, please, do try to attend tomorrow night's session about Imam Hassan's birthday. Give us one moment. All right, Milad, you want to share your screen? There you go. And you can turn the volume up a little bit. All right, so we have 15 teams. Again, there is a cash prize at the end of the game, $20. If you win, you will DM the account, the admin, either on Instagram at IECMD or right here, and we will Venmo you $20. 18 teams, very nice. All right. Give it one more minute before people get started. Alrighty, I think we are good to begin. And Milad, if you want to increase the volume of the Kahoot, I don't know if folks can hear it. I can't hear anything. Oop, looks like more people are joining the game. Give it another minute. Are folks able to hear the Kahoot sound or no? I'm not able to hear anything. All right, we can get started. And Milad, if you want to increase the volume so we can hear the Kahoot sound, that would be great. All right, so let's get started. 25 questions. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First question. What is bountiful mother in Latin? E pluribus unum, alma mater, carpe diem, or cognito ergo sum? All right, alma mater is the correct answer. Very nice. Next. All right, what is the name of the 53rd surah in the Quran? Surah Tur, Surah Qamar, Surah Najm, or Surah Mulk? All right, Surah Najm, very nice. Next question. Pul Mikham, oh, very nice. Pul Mikham in first place. What is the capital of Virginia? Is it Alexandria, Richmond, Fairfax, or Wilmington? As a reminder, the sooner you answer the question, the more points you get. Those who answer earlier will get more points. Richmond is the correct answer, yes. Richmond, Virginia. Pul Mikham, still in first place. Very nice. I like creative names. How many numbered colored balls are there in a standard game of billiards? 11, 15, 13, or 17? All right, the correct answer is 15. Nice. All right, next. 4 players just hit answer streak of 3. All right, Pudmikham still steady in first place. Which surah in the Quran mentions 2 prophets in its last ayah? Surah Nahl, Surah Bayyina, Surah Al-A'la, or Surah Fil? 2 prophets in the last ayah. Surah Al-A'la, very nice. All right, next question. What U.S. state has the longest freshwater shoreline? Puerto Rico, Michigan, California, or Florida? Which U.S. state has the longest freshwater shoreline? Michigan is the correct answer, yes. Keyword is freshwater. Very nice. Pul Milcham still at first place. Okay, can anybody take him down? Outside of the month of Ramadan, which days are mustahab to fast? Monday and Friday, Thursday and Friday, Tuesday and Thursday, or Monday and Thursday? Monday and Thursday is the correct answer. AT and Must? I don't know what that name is. All right, next. Question 8. Semhanophobia is the fear of what? Halloween, the Easter Bunny, mirrors, or tomato sauce? Yes, Halloween is the correct answer. Ooh, Pul Milcham has been taken down by AT. All right, next question, number 9. It is essential to do this action to fast the month of Ramadan, and it should be done before Fajr. Make wudu, perform a 2 rakat prayer, read a page of Quran, or make the intention of fasting. Yes, make the intention of fasting. You must make the intention before fasting. All right. Question 10. Who was the first African American to be appointed as U.S. Supreme Court Justice? Clarence Thomas, Thurgood Marshall, Jackie Robinson, or Barack Obama? Yes, Thurgood Marshall is the correct answer. Ooh, Pul Milcham still falling. Sad. Next question. Number 11. The Nahj al-Balagha is the compilation of letters, speeches, and words by whom? Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Sajjad, Imam Hassan, or Imam Rizal? Imam Ali, yes, 22 out of 22. Very nice. All right, next question. In what 2011 film does Brad Pitt play the general manager of the Oakland A's? Play ball, curveball, moneyball, or fastball? As another hint, Jonah Hill is also in the film. Moneyball is the correct answer, yes. All right. Up 5 places, ZB is the highest climber. What is the English translation of Surah Al-A'raf? The waves, the town, the heights, or the mountains? Correct answer is the heights. Pul Milcham coming back up. All right. Very nice. 14, we're over halfway through. What card game is traditionally played after a wedding ceremony in Hong Kong? Chinese checkers, mahjong, shogi, or go? All right, the correct answer is mahjong. All right, question 15. What is the amount of people needed to testify the Eid of Ramadan in the beginning of Eid? One person, 3 people, 2 people, or 4 people? How many people are needed to testify the Eid of Eid? 2 people is the correct answer. All right, very nice. AT pulling away with a lead. How many individual little squares are there on a standard Rubik's Cube? 34, 54, 44, or 64? The correct answer is 54 squares. All right, let's look at the standings. Wow, AT is pulling away with the lead. Can anyone catch it? Question 17. Which surah should you recite on Fridays? Translated as the cave. The last part was Alright, Surah Kahf is translated as the cave. All right, next question. Question 18. Whose autobiography is titled Long Walk to Freedom? MLK, Malcolm X, Barack Obama, or Nelson Mandela? Nelson Mandela is the correct answer. When water is not available to make wudu, you can do this instead. Nothing, tayammum, use your sweat, or wait until you dry. All right, next question. Question 20, the final 5. What year was the lava lamp launched? 1955, 1960, 1965, or 1970? $1965 is the correct answer. Wow. Okay, only AT got points there. Very nice. What surah is known as the heart of the Quran? Surah Rahman, Surah Qalab, Surah Mulk, or Surah Yasin? Surah Yasin is the correct answer. Very nice. Mahdia H coming into the top 4. Okay. Question 22. What folk character is said to live in the Sherwood Forest? Robin Hood, the Tree Man, Bigfoot, or Jack the Centaur? Sherwood Forest. Robin Hood is the correct answer, yes. Ooh, Mahdia H coming into 3rd. Very nice. Question 23. What month comes before and after Ramadan? Sha'ban and Rajab, Sha'ban and Shawwal, Rajab and Shawwal, or Shawwal and Sha'ban? And Shawwal, yes. All right, is this the final question? All right, 2 more questions. Who played the Dark Knight in the movie Batman Forever? Adam West, Ben Affleck, Val Kilmer, or Christian Bale? Val Kilmer is the correct answer, yes. In the movie Batman Forever, it was Val Kilmer. Wow, again, only AT got points. Very nice. Next question. Final question. How many surahs are in the Quran? 144, 114, 114 is the correct answer, yes. All right, let's see our winners. In 3rd place, Pulmikhan. Started off strong and came back in. Must is number 20, and in 1st place with 24 out of 25 correct answers, 18. Very nice. And running up, we have Matt and Mariam in 4th and 5th place. Very nice. If AT, you please DM the IEC Instagram, which is IECMD, at IECMD. We will Venmo you the money, inshallah. Thank you, everyone, for a phenomenal program, and special thank you to Brother Ehsan for a fantastic presentation. Alhamdulillah, I think we had excellent engagement. Let me see. The question is, Sister Mariam asks, do all 3 get the prize? No, only 1st place gets the prize. Inshallah, after every youth-led session, so every Wednesday and every Friday, we will, inshallah, have Kahoot games as well. All right, Brother Milad, it's all yours.
Thank you, Brother Reza. A quick shout out to Brother Reza who led the Kahoot game, as well as a great thanks and appreciation to Brother Ehsan for joining us tonight. Inshallah, this coming Sunday, we'll have Dr. Dolati presenting, so I hope you guys can join us for that program as well. Until then, everyone, please be safe. Keep us in your du'as. Keep everyone else in your du'as. And be safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.